This is the Be More podcast. I am your host, Jack Williams, and this is a show all about health, nutrition, mindset, and performing at our very best. And this is going to be your catalyst to being more. Okay, I am very excited to be welcoming to the podcast Mr. Mathew Hewitson. Now, I'm going to give him his time to shine in a second and let him just talk for the majority of his podcast, because I think what he's going to share is obviously going to be the value from the podcast. You're all obviously sick of hearing my voice, but this is a guest I'm bringing onto the podcast today who, if you had told me 8 weeks ago I was bringing this guy onto the Be More podcast, I would have probably laughed at you and I would have said he's not ready to come on the Be More podcast. But the growth I've seen in this man the last 8 weeks has been unbelievable. I already know his story and I heard it told for the first time properly. I think it was the first time Max told it properly as well on Friday night, and hearing it on Facebook Live, for me, obviously in a private group, so it wasn't out to the world. This is obviously his first time telling it to the world, so I don't know how he's going to come across, but I'm super excited for him. But for me, I was actually quite emotional listening to it, and I know Robin was the same, my mum was there, we was all quite emotional listening, so I hope you guys are ready for what's probably going to be one of the most... It's going to hit people big time, I think, this podcast, man. I'm putting a lot of pressure on you now, mate, but a lot of people have come on the Be More podcast and they're so motivational, so inspirational, but this one seems a lot more raw, and it's almost coming from a point where I don't want to talk too much. I want to let you crack on, mate, because I think people will know what I mean when I say that. So, mate, obviously, I will tell the guys how I met you. It was 5 years ago at university.
Yeah.
We both... Did we enjoy uni, mate, would you say?
Bits, not all of it.
And did we get on well at university, would you say?
No.
Out of 10, what would you give it?
I knew you had big arms and that was about it, really. So
That wasn't a number. What was my number out of 10? I'm
probably about two or three. I'm a nice guy, so I'll get on with everyone.
I would have said 4.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe 4 after the football game, maybe, but that's about it.
Because you ran the football team, didn't you? And you subbed me.
Yeah, quite a few times as well.
That broke me several times. And I had too big an ego at the time. I wasn't ready for that kind of treatment. But I thank you for it now, because it taught me a few valuable lessons. But mate, enough about me. Tell us about you.
So, obviously, we went together to university. So we went to Chichester Uni, going to do sports coaching and physical education. So I didn't know if I wanted to be a football coach at the time or whether I wanted to teach. Thinking about it now, I probably got into teaching for all the wrong reasons, which was the time off.
That's actually why I went to university to do that, because I thought 6 weeks off, happy.
Well, yeah, 6 weeks off plus. Well, technically, it's a lot longer than that. You have about 3 months off of the year as a teacher.
Just for summer, yeah. I'm thinking 6 weeks. Cool.
6 weeks, yeah. 2 weeks at Christmas, holidays, Easter, all the rest of it. So I was just like, yeah, oh god, unbelievable. And then I could probably do some coaching in the time off as well. So I kind of might have got into it for the wrong reasons, but Chichester was good in terms of developing a love for health and fitness. So I spent a lot of time working with some elite athletes whilst I was at university, which was probably a really good positive. Ended up having the opportunity to do a master's when I finished, but never kind of went down that route for a variety of reasons. But so it was an interesting one. I can imagine. I don't know what you thought about me when I was at university, but you have a sort of idea what you think about yourself. So it was it was a good time. I was never told I would go to university. I was the only one in my family to have ever gone. But thinking back about it now, I tell you what, I wish I hadn't wasted 20 grand
really?
on an education. Yeah.
So if you could go again, you wouldn't have gone to university?
No, there's so many different things you could do out there now, but you're sort of hammered into it. And it was the same when I was a teacher, because I ended up being a teacher in the end. You would tell kids it's the way to go. University is the way to go. If they ever want to succeed in life, they have to have a ridiculously expensive education, which is certainly not true. I could have paid £100 for a library card for the year, and gone and smashed out a ridiculous amount of knowledge and books. And it's probably a lot cheaper. So,
Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
well, yeah. So I mean, that was so yeah. But you get your benefits out of it. I mean, I picked up some life lessons. I thought, I learned how to survive on my own. An example being, and basically also what you're made of. So I mean, I actually tore my ACL whilst I was at uni. I think you might remember me walking around in a brace, looking like Forrest Gump. We had to go on that trip to Ross and Y, and obviously I'd only had an operation on the ACL in the January, and then by April I was told that by February I had to be we had to get to that trip in April. So most rehabs are about 6 months for an ACL, and I managed to do it in 3. So you kind of learn what you're sort of capable of. Like, I didn't think I would be able to sort of do it, but I said, look, I'll give it a try and we'll see what we can do. So yeah, that was probably one of the sort of best things I found out about myself when I was at university, was that if I get your head down and focus and do something day by day, you can actually achieve something which was quite worth it. And I'm glad I went on the trip. It was amazing. Like, the stuff you got to do, you got to see everyone else in their sort of out of their comfort zone. So it's probably the best thing I ever took from university, was sort of that sort of experience. Forget your sort of dissertation and all the rest of it and the lectures, but so yeah, that's probably the only positive I took out from that myself, was sort of like a bit of focus here and there, which was good. And then what did I do? I sort of finished university, didn't know what I wanted to do, kind of sort of fell out of love with a few bits and pieces, but ended up moving back home to Portsmouth. Funny story, I found out we'd moved to Portsmouth. I was in that tent at Ross and Y, got a text at midnight saying, yeah, we've moved, here's your new address. So that was always quite nice, wasn't it? Yeah, moving whilst you're away and then being told I didn't know that they were moving. So that was an interesting couple of weeks finding out where we lived, which is in Cosham in Portsmouth. So yeah, moved back to Pompey when I got back home off of university, but I only stayed there for 2 weeks because whilst I was at university, I actually found out I'm actually asthmatic, and all my family smoke and drink. So when I moved back home, my mum's a smoker indoors, and she would used to smoke at 3 a.m. and like I'd wake up in a panic because it feels like somebody sort of had like a vice on my chest. So after 2 weeks, and a few like potential big arguments over sort of living conditions, I decided to leave and go to London to see if I could get a fitness job. When you were a kid growing up, was that not a problem then? You don't know any better, do you? So
you woke up and you had a voice in your chest every day?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I just assumed it was the way it was. I mean, I used to play football and was all right. So I guess I didn't really think anything of it. It was just the way sort of because I didn't know any different. Yeah. It was just the way I'd grown up and lived. But then obviously meeting my partner, simple things like going around to hers and she'd just be like, oh, what's that smell? And all my clothes, all my my hair and that would just stink of smoke, and I wouldn't even realise. So you sort of you take big attention when somebody points it out to you. So yeah, and then I sort of moved to London with my partner, who's a PE teacher, and I spent about 4 months after this degree, being told, oh, you get loads of jobs with a degree. 4 months, basically about 15 interviews for different jobs, and I couldn't get one until I finally settled on a lifeguard position up in Watford. It was tough to take the fact that, I'm very big on sort of self-development and learning, and yet, I couldn't even get a job as a fitness instructor, and yet I've been working with elite athletes for the last sort of 6 to 9 months.
When you say you was big on self-development, at that point, was you big on it?
I would say yes, but not in terms of personal development. And self-development was more like knowledge I could accrue. So, for example, in terms of, I was big in my fitness, it would be stuff like diet, different training methods, different supplementation. I mean, I did loads and loads of research, and we did loads of sort of diets in the gym during university time. So we tried intermittent fasting at university. I did loads of high carb diet, low carb diet. And I've tried every diet there is under the sun now because I just kept doing it without realising in terms of that development. Self-development I've probably only done really for the last 8 weeks since I sort of met yourself, and basically knew what I was doing anyway, but pointed in a proper direction.
Cool. I want to touch back on the diet stuff, but I'm going to write it down on my sheet because I don't want to interrupt you now, so carry on, Nick.
Yeah, that's fine. So being in London, I managed to finally get a job in October after sort of spending 4 months looking for a job, and like I said, interviews here and there, but it wasn't. But then I started at the bottom. So most lifeguards have now been retitled to become recreation assistants, which means they can pay you minimum wage. So yeah, I would go up to this leisure centre in Watford with this bright yellow top and this really, really bright red shorts, and I would go and just sit in a chair for basically 6 to 8 hours a day, feeling pretty unsatisfied that I could do more. And then I also was extremely depressed at this point because I was bullied by this lesbian lifeguard, which was not a highlight of my my life at that point, to be honest. It got to, because lifeguarding used to begin at 5 a.m. So I would spend an hour from 5 to 6, especially if I was on my own with her, hiding in the centre. And I found some really creative hiding places, like oh wow. So I mean, even in the toilets, I remember her coming in and searching one, but it was sort of like closed, and being like one of those scenes out of Mission Impossible where you sort of like your feet are on the top of the toilet, so she can't look underneath and see them.
And this is what you would do.
Every time I was in the session on a rotated on with her, I would literally hide pretty much every single time until someone would come in at 6 o'clock.
So you was going to a job that you didn't like after paying 20 grand for a degree that paid you minimum wage, and you went there and you were bullied by what you just called a lady who obviously and what did she?
There was no PC about it. She was horrible. Was she the
boss there or something, or what was her role?
She was the duty manager. So she'd be responsible for the whole of the operation of the floor and the pool and sort of all the lifeguards on shift.
Would she treat everyone that way, or was it just for you?
Oh yeah, she was horrible to everybody. She was extremely more horrible to me because I had an opinion and I wouldn't take quite a lot of her bullshit. So an example like with this, sorry, I didn't mean to swear. An example was this. So in leisure centres where it's 31 degrees, I think it is, so it's got to stay warm, obviously, in the pool area, and you could get really dehydrated. And it got to the point where I would walk around with a 2-litre bottle of water because I'm dehydrated going into there, and I've got to walk around with it. Yeah, she spoke to the general manager and tried to get it banned. Walking around with having big water bottles. She wanted the little tiny Coke ones, and again, it wasn't. She didn't want even them. It was literally just again, as long as it was like a Coke or something. And I said to her, she didn't like me purely for the reason that I said, look, she told me to not have it one shift, and I literally told her, look, if you've got an issue, you take it up with HR, because I would happily go to HR and tell them that it's the fact that I'm going to be dehydrated. What do you want me? Dehydrated and potentially can't save someone's life because my reactions are slower. She didn't take that well. So yeah, she was pretty rude to me in front of people, to the point where I walked off, and then the general manager came and saw me later on, and I said, look, again, I'm going to tell you the same thing. If you've got an issue, you go take it up with HR, because I would 100% bet they're on my side, right? The fact that I've got water to be able to sort of do my job properly. Yeah, so they sided with me on that one. So you can imagine how annoyed she would have been afterwards. The quality of her treatment after that just got even worse. So, but there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, because most people seem to get stuck in that job, and I had people telling me I would stay there for about a year.
Whoa. So you're telling me people stayed in that job when there was a lady treating people that way?
There was nowhere else for people to go. People needed money, so people have a position and they abuse it. That's just the way, unfortunately, the world works. People of those who are in power tend to abuse those who aren't.
Mental.
It is mental, yeah. It is mental. And but yeah, luckily I managed to find, because I'm quite stubborn, I would find sort of different ways to sort of getting out. One of those was I decided to take one of those was to take a 1 day a week course for 12 weeks to learn how to teach in further education. So I would get, but I had to work around it. So for example, I would have to get up. I'd have to do an early shift. So I'd get up at 4 a.m., go to sort of like the leisure centre for 5, do my shift till I think it was about 4, and then from 4 till 5 I would travel home. I'd have a quick bite to eat for about half an hour, and then I would drive to Kingston. And anyone who knows travelling around London, it takes forever. You could see somewhere like 3 miles away and it'd take you an hour. I would drive to this course that started from 6 till 9, and then I would finish and come home for about 10. So, you're talking long days for 12 weeks straight. But it was worth it. I managed
every night or one night a week?
One night a week. But it could coincide where I'd have pretty much 4 shifts in a row. And like some of the times I was so tired that I know I shouldn't have done it, but I would go and sneak in the first aid room at the leisure centre, and like, especially, so you'd be a shift, you'd rotate around onto who would be on the pool side, and you're meant to walk around and tidy up the facility. But when I would be off, I was so tired, I would go and sneak into the first aid centre and just lay on the bed and pass out for about half an hour until my next rotation. So if they'd have found out about that, it'd be terrible. I'd have been in a lot of trouble. But yeah, I managed to finish the course, which was good, and then decided that I would need I'd need a job in teaching, which is what I want. I wanted to do it. I wanted to give back to people who gave back to me. So I do what I do now purely because one of the teachers I had at college, his level of like knowledge on the human body and anatomy and stuff like that was unbelievable. And he always pushed you to be better, and he would never have favourites. So I wanted to sort of help kids who were struggling with what they wanted to do at college, and sort of maybe have an impact on their lives. You never know what impact you could have on people. So I decided to sort of do some teaching. I couldn't get any jobs for about 4 months, and then decided to go and do some voluntary work at my old college for about.
So you couldn't get any jobs. What happened?
No experience.
So you'd apply and then just.
I'd apply and they go, "Sorry, you got no experience," and then go, "But well, if you give me some experience by hiring me, then I can learn on the job." But
no, I'm at it.
No, and it's one of those things like, you get a job and they say you've got no you go to a uni, they say you've got no experience. If you don't go to uni, they say you've got no education. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, really. What one do you do? So so I was getting that a lot wherever I'd sort of applied, but luckily I managed to get some voluntary work at my old college.
And you were still lifeguarding at this point?
No, I quit lifeguarding to do it because they wanted me to work. They didn't want me to leave, and I was just like, oh well, I do because I'm miserable. But yeah, I mean, I was one of the oldest lifeguards there, so most people who were doing it were teenagers, and yet I'm a guy who's just finished education, 20 grand in debt, and yet I'm doing the same as people who are just doing sort of college work, and I'm like, I could have done this without university, really. So So having quit that, I moved back down to my girlfriend's parents in Woking, and in order to sort of do the teaching, I had to live on the sofa so I started in, I think it was March 2014, I think it was. I started volunteering, and I did from March, April, May, June. I would basically do voluntary. I'd do it full time, but voluntary, not being paid anything. So, I mean, I had a little bit of money left over from that, and I sort of made it scrimp and save. I didn't sort of spend anything. I didn't have any money to go out or do anything. I would literally just use this girlfriend's sort of parents' food. Luckily, they sort of, would take care of me because they knew what I was trying to do. But yeah, that was a tough time because it's quite embarrassing. I mean, I'd be shattered after long days, and but it's their sort of like, I was on a sofa bed, so I didn't want to sort of take up space, so I'd be up quite early, and that was a tough 4 months. And again, I was going for interviews, same thing. Oh, you haven't got enough experience. I'm like, well, I'm doing 40 hours a week. No, still haven't got enough experience. So are you teaching? I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. In the end, I managed to get a good reference from the college.
How many no's do you reckon you got?
No's? In total, or just that period?
Both.
In that period, I probably got about 10 no's. In total, we're talking well over 35, I reckon, in terms of applications to colleges. because I was trying to stay around the area at one point because I wanted to sort of live around this area and stuff like that. And then I decided, no, I'm just going to go wherever. And I applied to places in Reading, Hertfordshire. There was a place down in Portsmouth. There was loads of places I applied for. And I did loads of different interviews. I would change the way I did the interviews because, like, you know, because you always got to reflect, haven't you, in order to improve. I would reflect and think, what have I done there? What could be rubbish? What could I improve on? But I must have done everything. I tried everything. I changed who I was. I was really bubbly. I went really, really quiet. I asked lots of questions. I didn't ask lots of questions. I was really enthusiastic. I was quite monotone. So yeah, I tried everything, and yet I was just getting no, 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 no. And then a lot of the times, like, I don't mind if they give me a no. You just want to know a reason, don't you? Just common courtesy, easy to reply to someone. Just go, yeah, really sorry, but we've gone with this person who's better. Or we go, oh, you were lacking in this little bit. But you just wouldn't get that common courtesy anymore, which is a bit, well, essentially pants, really, isn't it, on a human level?
And what was worse for you, being told no or telling people that you got told no?
Having to tell people it was a no. My partner's been very, very, I want to say patient and understanding, which is true. I mean, I've got a drawer full of cards that say, good luck, go on, you're going to smash it. Here's some polos for a thing, make sure you don't have bad breath. Here's a pen for it, make sure you write down notes. Loads of things, just to say, go on, you can do it. And, those, I mean, I'll be fair, I'd rather not have those, because then it means there's a little bit more pressure on the interview. Because if I don't get it, then I've got to tell her I haven't got it again and again and again. And she's put up with a lot of no's over the last sort of, how many years have I been trying to do this? What are we now, 2018? 2014? 3-4 years of no's. I managed to get, I did manage to get a job eventually, but it was only on a 0 hours contract in Watford. That was not bad, but I did it for 6 months because it was tough. I was learning on the job. I didn't know anything. I managed to BS my way into a job because I said, like,
teaching job, yeah.
Yeah. I'd basically said, my mentor basically told me, look, you're not going to get a job if you don't say you've got any experience. He said, look, here's my CV, just copy and paste it and pretend like you know it. I was like, okay, so I did that and I got the job. But it was only on a 0 hours contract, so I think I managed to work like 18 hours a week up in Watford. But I remember like it was yesterday, going up to that first job and just sort of sitting in the office, just being like looking around, going, "Oh my God, what am I doing? Hi, can anyone help me?" And like knowing now what I know, I was like, "Oh my God, I had loads of schemes of work to do, lessons to plan for," but I was just looking around, going, "Oh my God, I'm so lost. Can anyone help me?" But because they obviously thought that I knew what I was doing, I had to sort of BS my first 10 weeks in teaching, learning as I went. Luckily, I managed to pick it up quite quickly and got a sort of nice thing. But then, just got better. But there was never going to be an opportunity for a full-time job. Full-time jobs in education are really, really hard to come by, especially now. Because they either want you to work ridiculous hours or they also want you to teach a second subject. So I know loads of teachers who are teaching PE and also science, and yet they've got no idea about science. So they're also learning on the go and having to teach kids science, which they don't want to teach, but they have to do it if they want a job. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle in that one. So having done that, I moved back to Woking, to the college I did voluntary work at. And I worked there for 18 months. I think I thought I was going to make it at this college personally. I knew everybody. I knew the environment. It was a college I went to. It's the reason why I did what I did, and I knew I could sort of help people as much as possible. Unfortunately, the college didn't see it the same way. They reduced my hours. I left the job. They reduced my hours as soon as I got there to 6 hours a week. And then it picked up. I managed to get a few more sessions to the point I was doing like 18 hours a week. But it was like that. They could easily cut my hours like without even having to tell me. They could have just, yeah, Matt, you're teaching 4 hours this week. And I was like, oh, okay, but I've got bills to pay for. So it was a quite hostile environment to sort of be in. When I finished for the summer that year, this was sort of 2016, because I was 0 hours contract, I don't get paid in the summer, so I'd have to go and work. So I did like about 8 weeks worth of caddying at a golf club to then sort of subsidise what I wanted to do outside, like live. And went back in sort of August, and they gave me 8 hours a week. So again, still nothing to sort of live by. And I'm 25 at that point, 26, and yet nobody's still giving me a chance, if you know what I mean. So that was tough, because I felt like I was doing exactly the same work as full-time workers in the same department who were on 35, 40k a year, and yet I was being paid about 1,200 to 1,600 a month, doing exactly the same job. So, but that's their way of the colleges saving money. I mean, it's a bit of a terrible system, so much so like that people were being made, and the college I went to was being made, like they were making redundancies as soon as I got there, which wasn't brilliant. So it was a bit of an issue in terms of motivation. I feel like I made a good decision to move back, and then I've just been like, oh my god, they're making redundancies. It's always the last person in is always the first one out. So it wasn't brilliant. And then in order to sort of live in that area, the college put me up in student digs, which were basically not redecorated or remodeled since probably the early 90s, so about 25 years old. So here's a picture for you. So all the walls are bright yellow.
Nice.
There's a sink in there, and it's a single bed, and there are spiders everywhere.
And this is where you're sleeping?
This was where I was living for about 6 to 8 months, because I couldn't afford to live anywhere. I mean, Surrey's probably the most expensive place in the country, and yet I had like 8 to 10 hours a week. So, so they did. But in order to live there, I didn't pay any rent, but I had to run the student bar. So I would teach pretty much all day, do marking, plan, all the rest of it, and then I would finish, and then I'd probably have like an hour to myself to go to the gym, obviously to keep me sane, and then I would go from the bar 6 till 10 o'clock at night, Monday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and then I would have to come back on a Sunday to do the bar again for students that lived in. So yeah, that was probably extremely depressing at that point. I had a lot of the fact that the walls are yellow and my partner didn't want to come and visit me because it's horrible. It felt like a prison. Every time she came to visit me, she was like, prisoners have better walls than this, really. And I don't want to say yes, they do, because I've never been to prison. So, but it was depressing. You feel like you've gone to university, you've done all this, you're working really hard for people, and yet they treat you, they trap you, basically. I was trapped. I couldn't leave because I had nowhere to go. They wouldn't give me a job, so I had no money coming in, so I couldn't go and live. Otherwise, I would have paid for the accommodation. So it was safe to say I was trapped. And then the last straw came for me in that job when it came to, a teacher leaving, and then I applied for the full-time position, and they hired somebody else. So the best thing I got out of it really was the fact that the director couldn't understand why I wanted to leave and only work for 4 hours a week, and also that I should be able to subsidise my job with another income but still pay full attention to the teaching position. So I had a meeting with the director of the college, and he was just like, I don't understand what you want. I don't get what you want. You've got this amount of hours, all you need to do is go and work outside of it. And I was just like, you do realise that we're in one of the most expensive places in the country. It's like, how do you expect me to live on 4 hours a week? It was £25 an hour teaching, 4 hours a week, and then go and do another job, and then give my undivided attention to this one. So I said to him, look, I'm going to leave. He's like, right, okay, well, if you hand your notice in, you've still got to work for 3 months until December. Of which I was like, well, no, if I'm going to hand my notice in, I'm off. You can't keep me. Well, we won't give you a good reference. I was like, but I've done loads for the college, and you're now threatening me. You're not going to give me a good reference. I was just like, which is ridiculous. How do you expect to treat people like this? So I ended up leaving out of the office. I didn't say any more to him. But I went and saw my head of department. I said, look, that's it. I've had enough. I'm leaving. I've got a van. I hired a van, got all my stuff out of the college, and moved into the girlfriend's parents again, on the sofa
Did you get a bad reference or a good reference?
Well, I never asked them for a reference after that. Okay. So, I asked a person, like the guy, to give me a reference, my head of department, but not as a base for the college, like as a golf professional.
Okay.
So he helped in that. But so I was out of it. I was out of that place. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I'd had enough with teaching and then I managed to get a job at this golf club for about 8 weeks, being a ranger assistant. So basically making rich people sandwiches, is the way I describe it. And then it got to the place in like mid-October, and they were shutting it down because it's too cold to have it open.
This is last year.
This was what year are we? 2018, end of 2016, and then start to 2017. Yeah, end of 2016. Yeah. I know, is that right? Yeah, sorry, it is right. Yeah, that's right. 2016. So years just like fly by, don't they, at the moment? 2016. Yeah. So when I finished that, I basically offered me a job to be a waiter. Again, I'm questioning everything. I've gone to university. I've got all these qualifications. I've done further development. I'm a personal trainer as well. I spent money on that. I'm a level 2 football coach. I mean, you think about qualifications. I've got so many of them, and yet I couldn't get a job. And yet people were getting jobs who were underqualified, who were younger than I was. So I started to doubt myself quite a bit on that. And when I took this job, I did it for 2 days as a waiter. And then I couldn't serve rich people. I was just like, no, this is it, and quit. And spent a week sort of figuring out what to do. Luckily, a college in Epsom contacted me and said, look, we need somebody to cover because a guy's gone off sick. Can you cover for 6 months? So I did that. I must have had 2 or 3 interviews during the first six to 8 weeks because I didn't think it would be permanent, and then I sort of stayed there. Obviously didn't get the jobs. It's a theme of it, wasn't it? Lots of no's. And so I stayed with that college and applied for a full-time position there at, I think it was about April. And again, I didn't get it. I was in the college already. It should have been a given, really. I don't want it to sound sort of arrogant, but if I was there, I knew the system. It'd be easier for me to go on the course next year to become a fully qualified teacher rather than getting somebody in to sort of learn all the stuff. Nope, obviously not. They gave me a sort of a rubbish reason, really. It was something to do with this guy had a qualification in assessment. I was like, yeah, but I've got 5 years worth of teaching experience pretty much and a degree in it. And they're like, yeah, no, we're going to go with this guy. So it ended up, after doing 9 months of work with them, pretty much, they weren't, I want to say thankful, but they pretty much just marched me down to the gate, gave them my lanyard and stuff like that, and that was it. They just said bye. There was no thanks for your time, no thanks for your effort. We really appreciate you having here and all the stuff you did. And I felt like I did a good job. So it's safe to say I think I'd had enough of education at that point, and then all the no's I went to for more interviews after that. Yeah, I finally had a sort of heart-to-heart with my partner, and she just said, look, I don't think you're good at teaching. Maybe you should give it up.
Is that what she said to you?
Yeah. I think when she meant, what she really meant was you're probably not good in education for what the system wants you to do.
Right, okay.
So I would relate a lot of my education to my students into actual real life applications. What's the point of teaching them something out of a book unless you can apply it in the real world? So, again, it didn't go towards what colleges and that want and the educational system want. But I was like, yeah, but I'm teaching them nothing. There's no life experience they can gain from this. I mean, think about like maths in school. When are you ever going to use Pythagoras theorem?
I use it every day.
Yeah, shut up. There's things like that, and I just wasn't going to be one of those. I wasn't going to be another person who was just going to go, look, have this, and you would always use it every single day, because they wouldn't. I would try and give them loads of different stuff. Like, I mean, I did nutrition lessons where I brought in different types of foods. I brought in like crocodile, ostrich, zebra. So for a nutrition lesson, they'd never had that before.
Were they alive?
No, not no. things like we did anatomy lessons. I got hold of a complex machine, which is an electrical stimulation machine, and I'm teaching them stuff how the human body works. And yet, again, it wasn't seen as a good lesson because it wasn't on the criteria.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? But they need to use muscles. There's no point telling me what a muscle is if they can't use it. Oh yeah, that's a bicep. Brilliant. That's where it is.
Basically, if it doesn't tick a box, it isn't going to fit in the criteria. Therefore, you don't fit.
And I had enough of ticking boxes. Like, I mean, by the time I finished education, the amount of marking you had to do and remarking, I was just I hated it. And I'm big on professionalism and quality, and it got to the point where we were passing students that I knew would just struggle in life. So, at the beginning of the year, a pass would be really, really high. At the end of the year, they just wanted people to pass, and a pass would pretty much have their name on in a couple of sentences. And you're like, hey, it's
just for the school to get a certain percentage.
Yeah. So every learner to a college is worth $5,000. So if you lose a couple of learners, then you're looking at a position for a teacher to be not filled, and they would have to make cutbacks. So it gets to the point. It's the same with universities. Universities have gone the same way. It's a whole bums on seat policy. There was something came out in the recently. I think compared to when we went to university, we would have a conditional offer, whereas now there are so many unconditional offers. They just want people in there because essentially it's a business, isn't it? Universities and colleges, they are businesses. They just obviously protected by the fact it's education. But and I think I'd had enough of that con where I'm sort of it's not fair to the kids that work hard. Don't get me wrong, the person who might be like rubbish at doing some sort of education and what I was teaching them might be an unbelievable entrepreneur or something like that. But in terms of what I was trying to get them to sort of understand was life skills, they, I didn't want to work hard for the kids who were just like, they just couldn't be bothered. They were only there so that they didn't have to go and get a job, and that was it. I understand every kid has their background, but there comes a certain time that you can't baby them in life. So I'd had enough of that, which is why I decided to sort of quit teaching at the end of last year. Where I used to teach, I used to do all the sports massage courses. So I've been doing it for the last couple of years, qualified, and decided that I would give my sports massage a business to go this year from September onwards. So big step. Anyway, as you would know, Jack, going out on to sort of trying to go into business for yourself, it's quite tough, especially learning as you go. So I decided to take a golf club job back near around the area to sort of give me a little bit of security for income, and then decided I would get my business going up and running.
And at this point, were you still on the sofa at your girlfriend's parents, or?
No, I'd been moved into a room because the daughter had, where did she go? She moved out, so the room upstairs they put me into, which was quite nice.
And are you still there now?
Yeah, I'm still there now. I'm currently in it at the moment. So, but yeah, it's not an ideal situation. But we're unfortunately in that era where if we want a house, it's ridiculously expensive, and they either want a ridiculous deposit or you have to be earning a stupid amount. So. My places are limited. If I wanted to rent somewhere, you're looking at upward of £750 a month, not including bills. So that's like a lot of people's minimum wage. Really, is like about £1,000 a month. Especially people who don't have qualifications. So most people live at home. Unfortunately, I don't want to live in Portsmouth because I can't. I don't smoke. I'm thinking about my health. So
do you mean at your mum's?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Because Portsmouth isn't like this big old bit of fog.
Yeah,
of smoke.
Of course. It's just a big fog, isn't it? Really.
I wouldn't want to live there. It's so smoky.
No, I didn't want to go live at home with Mum. So, obviously pride takes a thing in it, but then obviously I live in a small room. Still trying to make it. I'm 27.
So we're about to go into your own business.
Yep.
You've gone through years of trying to make something work and it hasn't ever come of anything.
No.
How do you feel at that point?
Like a failure.
And what would you and your mindset would be I'm a failure, or what would go through your head from like day to day?
Day to day I would be constantly questioning myself, because it's terrible. I had a big discussion with my partner on this. It got me quite down because things weren't going well, so I decided that I was going to look for the safe way out and join the system, really, which was to work for my friend in an IT job, which would mean being around a desk and that all day, being in an office. But it would also mean, I think for me, a little part of me would die a little bit, because I always have, and I don't know why, I don't know where I get this notion from, but I've always had an idea that I would be not so much successful, but I would do something worthwhile and meaningful. I would have a huge impact. Why I've got this notion, I don't know.
And just what is that? What is the impact you want to have?
Well, I'd like to think, because the way I was brought up and the environment I was in, it would be people who were told no, that there is something out there that they can go and achieve. They just have to go and do it. Like I said, I mean, I come from a family, nobody's gone to university before. I come from a family that work in safe jobs. They don't strive to be better, whereas I've got an innate need for me that I want to get better every single day. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know if it's the fact I wear glasses and I want to know knowledge all the time.
So you're 27, Matt. Yeah, is that right?
It is. Yeah, that's right. Don't keep reminding me.
In them 27 years, how many days do you think you've put the action in place to get better? Give me a percentage.
Less than 10%, I would say.
So do you think that might be why your results up until obviously more recently you weren't seeing, because obviously you've got this idea, and everyone, I think everyone, like, the law of attraction is like a massive thing at the moment. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to think this thing into existence. But if you look at your day-to-day actions, if it was only 10%, without sounding harsh, you got what you deserved, right?
Basically, yeah. I would say I was a hard worker. I've been a hard worker at points in my life. And then I would probably say I've been a lazy bastard, actually, for quite a bit of it. And rather than then addressing it and blaming everybody else, I wouldn't blame myself, sorry. I would blame everybody else. That I wouldn't take responsibility for my own failures, and it would always be somebody else's issue. You know, like, why didn't they give me the job? Oh, you know, it's because they don't like me. Might be the fact that I might have just been shit, but how would I, you know, but rather than accepting it being me, I'd accept it if it was someone else. So that's probably been the hardest realization I've probably taken out of the last sort of 8 to 10 weeks.
So do you take ownership of all of these, like, no's, all of the lessons you learned? Do you take ownership of it all completely?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, I have to, really, because, you know, if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And that's unfortunately the way I see it now is completely different to the way I saw it then.
Then, did you see it in a victim mindset, do you think? Like,
yeah,
no one likes me, it's not working for me, it's why is everyone against me? Whereas,
basically,
do you think it was more just a result of what you was doing? Like, I think almost the diet after diet thing you mentioned at the beginning almost sums it up. Like, yeah, almost where you was trying so many different things. Yeah, you become a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if there's something that listeners can take from this podcast, because obviously we're going to hear your story in the last few months and how it's changed, it would probably be to realise, like, stop being a jack of all trades, because obviously, carry on with your story. I think we'll go back to that because I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. It's like I haven't been able to focus on something, and like you said, there was a bit of a blame culture, I think, for myself. Like, you know, it's always somebody else's fault. Like, even when I started the sports massage business, you know, 8 to 10 weeks I didn't see anybody, and I'm like, but I'm really good at this. You know, why does nobody want to pay me loads of money to sort of treat them? I just don't understand it. You know, even that mindset.
And how dark did it get for you?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Round about Christmas time, you know, with the whole conversation of doing an IT job, which I didn't want to do because, like I said, I had this notion of being more. I also would think about that. and I had an honest, conversation with the partner to the point where, I basically took responsibility and told her I was a failure. I knew I was a failure, and I didn't know what to do. I basically didn't see a way out. I was working at a golf club. I had no people come to see me in my business. I couldn't see a way to earn a decent amount of money to be able to sort of provide to the fact that I can move out. It got, I'm a deep thinker at the best of times, but we unfortunately have a history of suicide attempts in my family on the male side. Twice from my brother, once from my dad, looking to overdose. And it's safe to say that at that Christmas time, I probably, with no way out, really, probably the only time I've contemplated massively of the end. Stop being a burden on my partner, constantly failing, stop taking up space out of the girlfriend's parents. Obviously, God knows what they think, constantly seeing me failing for interviews all the time. Mates who don't understand sort of why I'm not taking a job for the IT position. I fell out with my mate for that because he got me the interview. I couldn't see a way out, really. No future. I felt literally there was only one way out, and that was the way out.
And this was 8 months ago.
This was Christmas time, yeah. Obviously the type of year as well. It's one of the times a year for suicide rates to be up really high due to depression. So I wouldn't say I was depressed, but in terms of clinically, but I would say I was having dark thoughts pretty much every day. It was a terrible job. I was on my own. I didn't see many people. If I came home, I'd spend time. I'd be on my own. So yeah, it was. I really, really contemplated it. Probably the most I've ever done so in my life is what I would say. So it was a real tough time. Something that I look back on now with a completely different viewpoint. But at that time, I couldn't see any way forward. Just getting up for the work the next day was a struggle. It's dark. I have to be at the golf club for 6. I'm on my own because it's dead. Nobody wants to play golf in the winter, so I'm on my own most of the day until 2-3 o'clock when it closed, before the sun sort of starts to go down. And then I would go home and I'd still be on my own. So yeah, it was a tough time. Massage business wasn't doing anything at that point, so I literally was doing nothing, seeing nothing, being nothing, and I just thought about sort of being in the ground type nothing. It's probably the toughest point in my life, I would say, that point.
And how did you get out of it?
Next day, just keep doing the next day. All the way until I still wasn't doing anything. I was picking up the odd person here and there for treatments at the golf club, and then sort of I came to we booked a holiday a while ago for Portugal in April, and I went with my partner and a friend. And when I went out there, I'd followed this guy on Instagram for a while. He was a therapist out in Croydon. It's really good, and he was big on self-development. He posted a book for the holiday called Gary Vaynerchuk, Crush It. So I decided I was going to read it when I was out there on the plane. When I was sort of sitting around doing nothing, I'd read it, and one of the lessons I read from it was about a mentor / reciprocal work. So as soon as I was there, I was writing stuff down. I was thinking, what can I do? Who can I get? And one of the things I kind of let myself do really was get out of shape quite badly. I go through phases, unfortunately, of going in shape, out of shape, dieting. Like you said, we talk about the diets. I've had to try all the diets because I keep getting out of shape, purely from that work ethic perspective of not thinking I'm working hard, but not actually working hard. So I went and I decided actually to contact yourself whilst I was on holiday, only because I'd seen you be successful for the last 5 years, worked for some really successful people, and decided that really if I was going to try and do anything when I get back was I'll try and see if I could do some reciprocal work with you. I saw that you had quite a big following, and that if I'm going to advertise myself and my services, then you obviously got to be around successful people. And if I could get I think I remember seeing you had 5,000 people on Instagram, and if I was well, if I could get 10% exposure, I've got like 500 people who potentially want to sort of like get treatments. I mean, people gym, people train all the time, you know, people are injured. If I could even get that amount of people, then I'd be able to sort of like hopefully get a springboard to keep going. And that was my idea. And, you know, I put into action what it said, messaged you once or twice. I think I remember getting a reply to the first one saying, yeah, sure. And then that was it. And then I was like, okay, I'll give him a chance. You know, I'll wait a week if he wants to do it. Send another message. Jack, you still interested? No reply. Okay, that's fine. And it got to the point where I was like, I think after 4 messages, I remember being on a putting green, trying to send a message, and I was getting really annoyed. I was like, Jack, right, I'm really like, if you want to do this, let's do this. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but I don't want to waste your time. All right, so do you want to get this done or not? And I remember you messaging me back, being quite funny, just being like, yeah, sure, pal, let's do it, as if nothing had happened.
I don't even remember ignoring you. That's the funny thing as well. Yeah, I don't actually remember ignoring you. I feel so bad now. I literally never ignore anyone. I'll try and make it like a thing where I always reply to everyone. So it must have been where I was so upset about you subbing me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I can understand really that you were so busy.
Right, okay, yeah, so carry on, mate, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, I knew you were so busy, and I understood that, but just by the fact that I could, you know, when I also look back to it now, it was almost, without realising, it was almost don't take no for an answer, but for me, it was just like, well, I really want to just like sort of work, because my idea was that, you know, like I said, give you some treatment, and then you'd hopefully get me in unbelievable shape. So, seeing as I'd seen your success stories from all the clients you worked with, and I'd followed you closely with one of the guys you trained, who was also a personal trainer, and I also wanted to learn what it was like, because obviously we took different paths. I've dieted with different coaches. I've seen what their sort of like programs were, and I just wanted to see what somebody who I could almost sort of envision myself with, because obviously we went to university. You know, so see someone who's a success like yourself coming from sort of the same sort of slate. We both finished university with a degree. You know, maybe I could sort of hopefully have a bit more success just by sort of hanging around a little bit and sort of picking up some bits and pieces. So,
do you remember the first time you came around?
Yeah, I was shitting my pants. I think I was so nervous. I spent the whole journey going, shit, what am I going to say? How am I going to say hello to Jack? Hi, Jack, nice to meet you. Firm handshake. You know, like sweating, be like, oh my God, yeah, don't talk too much because you'll bore his ears off and he'll never ask you to come back round again.
And tell the audience how far your drive is from my house as well to massage me.
So it's 56 miles. It's an hour and 15 minutes on a good day, hour and a half on a bad day.
And you would,
but it is worth it.
The whole drive you drove thinking, shit.
Yeah, but yeah, don't screw it up, you idiot, basically. We want to try and get here a bit more often, Matt. Yeah, let's do your treatment really well. Be attentive and try not to come across as a know-it-all. I guess is what I tried to do. Because obviously, don't forget, we were meeting for the kind of like the first time in over 5-6 years, where we didn't really speak to each other. We didn't really get on at university. We just sort of knew each other. And I was just like, yeah, please don't blow it. So
I think one of the first things you said to me was, how have you done this? Because at uni you were just like the most unfocused person, and now you seem
like... I mean, people know your story. I think
you actually used it like in a worse way than that. I think you were like, at uni you were useless.
Well, I mean, I wasn't the one sitting at the back of lessons putting bets on some girls in like netball in Sweden, so
mate,
you can understand why my last impression of you compared to sort of what it is now.
Great times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. The lectures were that poor, Christ. So yeah, you know, it's probably one of my most nervous sort of meetings over the last sort of 6 years. I would say.
I didn't even know you were nervous because you didn't seem nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good way of... Well, you say that. I think I messaged you afterwards apologising for chatting so much, because when I'm a bit nervous, I just go blah, 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 blah. So, and I was like, I'm really sorry, Jack. I really apologise. I must have talked your ear off. I hope you enjoyed the treatment. And then, yeah, let's get on board and do some work together. So, yeah, I guess it was a good catch-up, because it was actually an hour and a half. It was an hour and a half massage. I didn't realise it taken so long until sort of like, you know, it's 9:30 and I'm going home, and you're like, yeah, mate, I've got dinner now. You're gonna have to go. So,
And I felt unbelievable after that as well.
so yeah,
And
it's
I remember going to Robin, I was like, I feel unbelievable after that. But I went, but I've got a headache. He didn't stop talking.
yes, yeah, I
And she
know.
was like, oh,
Yeah,
is
I
he
don't
coming
blame
down
her.
again? I was like, I don't know. I think he wants to come every week. She was like,
Yeah,
what? And you're going to come all that way and he's doing it for free? I was like, no, I'm going to train him in return. She was like, that's going to cost him a fortune and fuel. I was like, well, let's get him in shape then. And then what happened?
but yeah, I mean, but it's like that. People say that. Oh, why'd you go down all that way? They don't realise that it's the when you want to associate yourself with people or you want to learn. Money's not an object, really. That's how I look at it. Like, if I want to go and spend time with a mentor or I want to go learn for something, I'm either going to pay for it. Like, I've just come off a course for another cupping course doing hijama. I just paid 375 quid for it. But that's insignificant into the knowledge I've learned, if you know what I mean. So I can't remember one of the quotes. It's something to do about how knowledge is priceless, and I totally agree. So when I come down, I mean, it's all the other benefits that come with it. I mean, it's obviously unbelievable in South Sea. I go and do walking every single time I'm there. You know, I always come back every week feeling like I've got a goal. I feel more motivated. I also feel better about myself sometimes, uh, depending on what dressing down I've got over the week. So yeah, that's it. People don't understand that until they actually do it. So yeah, it's probably one of the best decisions I think I've ever made, and I've kind of learned a little bit from that. It's from the people who like Gary Vaynerchuk from that book. If I had actually done what he said and just read it, I mean, there's a difference between reading and doing. Then I don't think I'd ever be here in this situation now, as to where I am, where I can actually now see an like the sky's the limit is the way I feel now compared to eight months ago. The sky's the limit now. Like, I can make what I want of this world purely by going out and actioning what I'm sort of learning. I'm doing a lot and lots of personal development, you know, after sort of, you know, speaking to yourself. And it's amazing how much, like you said, the law of attraction works. I'm working with some really great people now that I don't think would ever be the case. So I'm absolutely buzzing for my future, which, like I said, I don't think I've ever felt in my life at all, which is really, really weird. Living, like, waking up every morning with a purpose is so hard to describe to people other than just showing them. You know, the fact that you know, people have seen on my Instagram that I'm up most of the time before I go to work now on the golf course putting steps in, listening to audio books. I'm up at 4 a.m. at the moment reading. It's not because I have to do it, it's because I want to do it. So that's probably the biggest thing I've taken out of the last sort of, you know, 8 to 10 weeks of Meet Yourself, you know, is drive.
And yeah, how? People are probably thinking now, like, you've gone to Massage Jack, what's happened?
Well, reflection, isn't it, really, I would say. You know, oh, you're going to like this one. I guess I probably started to get out of my own way a bit, I think. Obviously, like, knowing stuff about massage and stuff like that and personal training, obviously I've got the knowledge and intelligence, but it's almost a bit too intelligent, a bit too, you know, I'm always thinking of ways of not doing something as opposed to actually just doing it. And I've been letting fear probably control my life a bit too much. Oh my God, what's he going to say? Oh, what happens if they say no, all this and that? Whereas, like, now I'm just like, what's the worst that could happen? So, and I'm starting to, you know, finally, after sort of some choice words here and there, get out of my own way and start to believe in myself a little bit more. That's probably one of the key things. Whereas before, I'm always like, I'm comparing myself to everybody, thinking, oh, why are they better than me? Whereas now, it's all about me, but me versus me. You know, what can I know more tomorrow than what I did today? So, you know, that's probably the one thing I'm really happy about doing, is sort of just developing myself further in that aspect.
Did I directly teach you that? I didn't, did I? I think you just literally picked that up from me, didn't you?
Yeah, so, but that's the thing, isn't it? So if you look at how much you've applied to yourself, how many people want to be around that? That's probably the biggest thing and that's from, you probably won't see that because it's from yourself, but from an outside in, that's what I'd picked up every single time I'd come round, you know. And the fact that the fact that I was late, I think, for one of my sessions, and you were like, mate, I'm busy. I've got time. I've got, my time is valuable, and being somebody who's professional, I'm like, crap, yeah, my time is valuable. But how do you get to that point? But you get to that point by being successful, and how you value yourself. I mean, obviously, I valued your time, but I didn't realise how valuable it was until I sort of almost got a dressing down for myself because of your opinion of it. That's the way I've sort of picked things up, and now I'm never late for it, ever. I'm always like an hour and a half early. Smashing steps out on the beach. So
yeah, obviously the main thing you've obviously taken from being around, I'm a big believer, I know you are, and that you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with, and like you've changed your circle from reading Gary Vee's book, and Gary Vee's someone who I've followed for probably about 4 years on YouTube, watching him almost every day, almost for like 3 years. I reckon I would watch Gary Vee because he'd be on YouTube every day because he was trying to build a brand, and he's actively inspiring thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day. But he makes a really good point in his videos: is I don't want people watching me.
Yeah.
Because if you're watching me, you're not doing anything. And I would be a fan of Gary Vee for ages. Read his books, watch his videos, and I'd be like, I get it now.
Right, yeah.
And I'd stop watching Gary Vee because I'd learn everything that he'd say, because he's obviously an unbelievable entrepreneur and motivational guy. But then I'd be like, when will I be at the point where I don't need to watch him for motivation because I've got my own drive and why? Like you say, you wake up in the morning excited. I'd wake up and be like, where's the motivation coming from today?
Yeah.
So I'd need a hit of personal development, or I'd need something to give me like some motivation. Whereas, I don't know if you hear Eric Thomas when he goes, you need to have something within.
Yeah.
And like, if you see on the animal programs, like David Attenborough stars, is it David Attenborough or Richard Attenborough? It's David, isn't it?
David Attenborough, yeah.
Don't watch them enough. But when the lion is after the gazelle, if the gazelle is injured, the lion doesn't go after it.
No.
You've got to have a why. You've got to have a fight. And when you realise that there's a fight, I'm going to swear, you get after it, right? Because that's what's happened to me in the last 12 months. And I can see it in you in the last 8 weeks where you're like, I get it. You're starting to get it now, that it isn't about getting motivation from external things.
No.
It's about having something within, and you found that within. And obviously now you've started your own business with it. You're thinking, right, how can I have an impact on the world, which is what you've always wanted. Yeah. But that's fluffy. It's something within now that's fired up within you, and you're connected now. You're connected to being healthier, setting an example, making the world healthier and happier. That you've been bought into almost the cult of trying to change the world because you've wanted to do that for such a long time. Yeah. But there's something greater in it. That isn't just that. It's like you're thinking now. It isn't about you. Yeah. It's about how what you do will affect everything that's happening in your life. Like all the people that doubted you. Yeah. You're thinking now, you've got a way to show them people that you are what you thought you've been this whole time. You've now got a vehicle to be like, I can now prove not only them wrong, but most importantly yourself. Like you said, this is about you versus you. Yeah. And as a result, they're going to think, all you've done is decide to make it. You've made a decision. I'm going to apply myself and do. Because you've got all the knowledge that you came around. First time you came around, even the second time. I said to Robin both times, I was like, he is unbelievable at his job, but he's hardly any customers. I can't figure it out. Yeah.
Neither could I.
I couldn't figure it out. But there was obviously an underlying reason, right? Whereas all of a sudden, you're busier now, aren't you?
Oh, I'm so so much busy. It's unbelievable. So much busier.
You've got a new job now at a golf course, which is what? You can't even sign up there to play if you're a normal person, can you? I don't think.
No, you can't. It's
you've got about 1 million zeros in your bank balance to be able to play golf there.
Basically,
that's the same golf club that turned you down for a job a year ago, isn't it?
Yeah. In between teaching and where was it? In between teaching and what was it? No, in between my second 2 teaching jobs, I applied for that job because I'd had enough of teaching. But the way I think about it now is that they knew I was broken. They knew, they could just sense it. I mean, I was desperate in that interview, and yet the one I went to previously, I mean, they headhunted me after what they'd seen, and yet it was completely I'm a completely different person. I went into that interview being like, "Yes, don't need this. I know what I'm going to do. I know where I'm going. If I get it, I get it. But I'm not going to be sitting down blaming anybody else if I don't get it, purely because I'm just so driven, completely different person. So that was probably the nicest feeling I've had in the last couple of years. So
And I think you just walked in with a whole new confidence.
mm,
And interviews aren't really about what you say.
no,
It's about how you
that's
come
right.
across.
Yeah,
Like, I've not had many interviews. I don't think I've had hardly any. But it is hardly ever about what you ever say. I know it's about how you hold yourself and how
yeah,
the energy that person gets from you will make their decision. And obviously, you can say something in a certain tone or a certain way, and they'll be like, "Yes, They'll just they'll feel it. It's all
yeah,
based on a feeling.
yeah,
It
yeah,
isn't, and at the time, you obviously had all the knowledge, but they never got that feeling from you, like that burning desire that you were going to come into that workplace and you were going to make that place better.
yeah. That's right.
Whereas now, you went in and you were like, like I keep saying that word because I'm like, you just get it,
Yeah,
It was a feeling you gave them, and they're like, Matt, come take this place over, and you're like, bang. And that's what makes me excited, because you just applied like the same person with a different mental attitude into the same human body, and
yeah,
now all of a sudden, bang, you're getting results in your body. Your nutrition's better. You feel better every day. Suicide is like a long fucking distant memory that you were once thinking, right, I'm gonna try and get myself into the ground. Whereas now you can't look up any higher because you're so
yeah.
fucking motivated by what could happen.
And that's
And
legit, isn't it? Rock bottom. All you can do is go up.
sometimes you have to hit rock bottom though.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to hit some point of pain or some point of like almost action comes out of desperation sometimes. And you've obviously thought, right, this book was make or break for you, wasn't it?
pretty much. Yeah,
Or it was either that, or you were just going to live a life of just almost like it was just a slow death, wasn't it? Even if you
well, yeah,
if you stayed in the game, right, it would be doing something that wasn't fulfilling you as a person. And like we'll probably bring you on in about a year's time, and you'll be going, well, how things have changed. And like we can both see it for you now because we can see the future you're trying to create and build for yourself, and it's mental.
yeah. A lot of hard work to go, but it's exciting to be able to do it. Which is, like I said, with
But
a purpose.
but how easy is hard work when you know why you're doing it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't really classify it as work, to be honest. Then.
Exactly. That's when
Mm.
you know you found it.
Yeah,
That's when you know you found it. But so for you, the main thing was to get you out of the situation you was in was changing your circle.
yeah,
So that
massively.
and that's almost what you're trying to influence other people now, where you can see like I can help that person. You just bring
Yeah,
them into your circle because you know that by being in that's going to change them completely.
yeah. What is it? Like I said a good part to the missus actually. I think the other day was that I don't think it was I was a rubbish teacher. It was more I was a rubbish teacher for the criteria that was set.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with what I've got and my ability to teach others, this was the path that I was set for, as opposed to sort of like in education for some sort of government and all the rest of it. We're talking about teaching in life.
It wasn't supposed to work, was it?
No, clearly not.
It was supposed to bring you until now, and it's giving you a story that you can tell forever.
Mm.
But mate, still think 27 and you found it. Most people live 77 and don't find it.
Yeah, I know.
But you're still
I know.
so young, and I think people will be like, I don't know, just so excited for you as well, like I am, because literally, you're no longer the jack of all trades. You're just like you're mastering one, and that one person isn't a thing. It's you.
Yeah,
It's you, and every day you're like 4 in the morning, 4:30, whatever it might be. Bang, you're going to do personal development. You're going to read. You're going to go do your exercise, whatever it is, and you're taking people with you.
mm.
The speed
Sure
of the
do.
the speed of the leader dictates the rate of the pack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you're like, I'm taking these with me, and you're just setting an example to people, and that's proper teaching, I think. Like, I hate life coaches that don't set an example themselves,
Yeah, yeah.
and I hate even people saying that I'm like a life coach. Like I'm 26,
I've done any
I
life yet.
haven't even I've not even lived a life yet. Like
Yeah.
all I'm doing is I'm just trying to set an example that I would have wanted to have been set to myself.
Yeah.
Because when I was 21 and I was gambling in the back of the university, why was that? because I was a twat, one, and two, because my circle of influence were people that were doing the same thing. I fitted in. I'm just like I'm fitting in now, but I've just changed the people that I'm around, so it makes me want to be more driven. And I'm always looking for people that are doing better than me, because I'm like, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to go to sleep at night. And I love sleep. Like, I've done a lot of sleep research recently. But if I see something that makes me, I don't compare, but it makes me raise the bar.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to live life. If you're constantly trying to raise the bar of self-improvement, then you're going to go so far in your life. Whereas if you're constantly trying to raise the bar with how many Jaeger bombs you can drink, or how many, whatever everyone's doing, how many lines of cocaine you can sniff on a table, I'm not saying this is what you're doing. This is what most people do. Raise the bar. Let's buy another ground this weekend. Let's just spend another weekend binging our way into a hole that creates.
Monday,
until Monday starts again. Then we go back to the life that we don't want to live. So we get to the weekend again and we can forget about it.
Yeah.
And it just fascinates me that. And I used to live like that.
Yeah.
And I used to live like that. So mental.
Yeah, like thank God it's Monday yesterday, and I didn't even know what day. Like at the moment, days are just blending in. It's not tomorrow, it's not Tuesday, Wednesday. It's just a day, because I don't classify it. Yeah, it's another day for an opportunity. It's literally not like yesterday. Somebody was like, "Oh, it's Monday today." I'm like, "What is it?" I don't even know. It's just another day to like be better. That's it.
Be more.
But yeah, basically be more. Yeah. So I said to you, it's quite ironic, Cal. That's sort of like that's your phrase, but it fits in so well with like you, in terms of what I want to do, but the way people get better, and that's it. It's just to be more.
And when I made the idea of being more, I was 21 and I wasn't being more. It was an idea.
Yeah.
It was an idea, and it wasn't until I went through hardship or went through some kind of pain that made me realise, like, and everyone's pain's different, and it hasn't got to be. It's subjective, mate. Like someone might say something to you, and you'd be like, "That's not painful compared to what I've been through." But to them, it could be even worse. And like there's so much that I've learned from my own self-development over the years, and it's just like you can never judge a book by its cover. You can never judge a situation by the situation. Everyone deals with things differently, and I feel like, that's probably put me in a position to be able to say, I don't know, just set an example by doing. That's all I do, because, like you said, at university, there wasn't a man in the room who was less focused. There wasn't a man in the room who was less academic. Like I had nothing really going for me. Where people at uni now think, how? What's happened to Jack? I had a pair of arms on me. Because that was all I really got enjoyment out of was bicep curls. Yeah. But I liked seeing growth, and I saw growth in my arms, but I wanted that in other areas of my life, and it just wasn't happening until, as the last years go by, I would see growth in certain areas. But when that certain area would start growing, other things would get smaller. Like, use the body as an example, right? You train arms all the time, they're going to get bigger. But then you look downstairs and your legs are fucking crap. That was literally my life. Like, I'd go and hammer a competition. I'd go and step on stage, men's physique, and be like, bang. But then, all at the same time, my family hated me. Yeah. My girlfriend hated me. My relationship, I didn't see my friends. And there was a lack of balance. So I might have been going one way in one area of my life, but there was no balance. It wasn't a level playing field. And one of the things Gary Vee speaks about a lot is self-awareness. Yeah. And every single year, and every single goal I would set would make me more self-aware, because I would always achieve the goal, but it wouldn't always take me to a position where it was good or bad. Yeah. It was more often than not, it would be detrimental to a certain area. So I've just, over the more recent months, been like, how can I set goals that are going to deliver on every area that I want to improve? And I think that's a journey that I'm on myself, whereby that's why I got rid of my car. Yeah. I became almost minimalist this year. Yeah, I agree on that one. Because I wanted to be like, that isn't what's driving me. Cars don't drive me. No. Things like that, like experiences and people and impact drives me, like you said. And then there's the things that we do now are like, they aren't about me. They aren't about my main why, and where I probably sound so passionate is because all the things that I do are for a deeper why than me. It's never about me. It's about repaying the people that have invested in me to get me to where I am now. Mainly my parents. They drive the shit out of me. Seeing my granddad unwell, it drives me. I'm like, I need to change things because it ain't about me. It's about their future, right? Because they've done all they can to set me up. That's what makes me so driven. That's what, when people message me going, "How'd you get up at 4 a.m, Jack?" I'm like, I love the feeling of getting up at 4 a.m. and I love the feeling of being in alignment with the place I want to go because I know that's going to impact my parents in a way where they've spent their whole life trying to impact me. And for 25, 24 years, I would never show any gratitude for that. Like, Dad would give up his Sundays to watch me play football. I wasn't that good. Like you said, you subbed me, but he'd give up his Sunday. He'd stop playing. He'd come watch. My mum would make me dinners. I was the fussiest eater, but she would make me dinners and have things on separate plates. I'd have 3 plates with my potato waffles, my spaghetti, my chicken, all on separate plates. Chance to do triple the washing up because of me. But people would always do things for me, and that's for me is what makes me so driven now.
Yeah. Why?
A really powerful why. So I think if there's things like this podcast has motivated me a lot, I'm buzzing. But people, if they can take something from this podcast, it would be never give up.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
Never give up. Surround yourself with different people. Get a burning desire. Make the why not about you, about helping other people.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things I've come across at since meeting you is that as much as I like to think I give back to people, I probably don't give back enough, and it's something I'm addressing over the next 12 months. It's trying to give back more because essentially it's not one of those trying to do it for sort of selfish reasons. It's purely because, like you said, I've the amount of people have done for me. It's for me time to start giving back. Really,
mate. You've been living at your girlfriend's parents for however long. You must feel so much gratitude to them. And then when you can actually physically go, thank you, and then you can return whatever they've done with you, you'll never be able to repay them.
No, absolutely not. No.
But they'll get there. You'll feel so much. Not in a selfish way, but you'll just feel so good when you're in a position where you can be like, thank you for putting up with me for this long, because you helped me to have that little bit of self-belief that I could still fucking make something of myself. And now look what's happening, and look at the impact I'm having, and look at the difference this is having. Whereas if you'd have given up on me, like everyone else did, like I did, because you've given up on yourself almost at one point.
Yeah.
You can just be like, there you go. And then there won't be a greater you won't be a greater feeling in the world when you're feeling that, And I almost, like you say, you visualise things. I visualise doing them things in my head almost every day. I've got goals that I want to deliver to people, and I'm like, that makes me, like when I'm running down the seafront and I slow down, I'm like, you prick, don't you slow down.
Yeah.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, here we go.
And that's how
You're
I feel.
right, though.
I didn't feel that way. I knew the quote, but I didn't feel that way when the why wasn't about me.
Yeah.
When the why was about me, I'd easily give up on myself. Whereas when the why is about other people, you don't give up on other people.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is what I'm seeing in you now, where you're building a team of. It's making me feel like emotional because I can see that you're like, I'm doing it for them. You're leading the pack.
Yeah, well, they like you said, time to give back. So, and this is one of the best ways I can see to do that, which is just to help people that I know, essentially, be more. Really. Be more. Come on. Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for your time on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Have you pulled the curtains as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I had to pull the curtains because it's actually a really nice day outside. And there's a lot of people on the beach, and I'll be looking at them rather than looking at you, and I'll be giving you my undivided attention now.
Well, I'm so good looking, obviously. So
that must be it, mate.
Yeah.
There will be take 2, and I think it'll be in about a year's time because you're going to tell another story then, because the story is just going to build and build and build, and I know you're excited to tell it in a year's time. And I think if you can visualise where you'll be in a year with a opportunity that's you can reinvent yourself every single month.
100%.
Whereas in a job, you have to stick to the criteria, you have to stick to the system, and your income and your impact is dictated by someone else.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur that you are, and like I am, that would never work for us. That's why it didn't work for you. You just never had the right vehicle. Whereas now I think you have, mate.
Vehicle for change.
And this is the longest podcast I think I've done yet.
Well, when you just get chatting away.
This is it. You talk too much, mate. This is the problem, isn't it?
I don't remember saying that much, to be honest.
Right, we'd love to hear your feedback, guys and girls. So let us know what you think. What's your Instagram, mate? Let the listeners follow you.
Mind to Muscle 17.
Cool. And if you get no followers from this podcast, then you'll know that it didn't go well. You'll have to come back on in a year's time.
Just going to have to show them. That's all I can do, really.
Yes. No, you're going to get followers. This has been awesome. Thanks, mate, for your time.